welcome back everyone. My name is Dustin. In the last video, we created the script compiler, and if you missed that video, you can check that out right here. So in this video, we're going to create the IconReplacer class. Now the IconReplacer class take the runtime executable, which we still have not created yet, but that's coming soon, and replace the icon resource of that file. So it will show the new file icon rather than the default one that comes with the system. So for the icon replacer, we're going to use Pimple again, or pointer to implementation. The reason why I want to do this is because changing the icon is OS specific. I know how to do it on Windows currently, and after some research, it seems that Linux does not embed the icons in the executable binary file. Instead, it uses a .desktop launcher file, and it will find and replace the icon using that. I have not done that before, so I'll have to do some tests on that before I can implement that, and I will make a video on that once I have that working. So for today, we're going to handle the Windows implementation. So let's start the class now, and we're going to just go to our packaging folder and go add new file, IconReplacer.h. Yep, we want to add it to our CMake file, and while we're here, we might as well add our IconReplacer.cpp file. Go back to the .h file. And we don't need much in this file, but we do need the pragma once and namespace Scion editor. And we can bring this in a bit. And we're going to have our class icon. And we're going to have some public. And we're going to have a private section. Awesome. We're going to have the constructor here. So icon replacer. And the constructor is going to need to take in the icon file. So const std bring reference s icon file. Then it's going to need the const std string reference for the executable file. So it needs the executable file path and the icon file path. We're going to have to include string for now. So we're going to need both those paths in order to change the icon, the embedded icon for the executable file. And we're going to need the destructor. So icon replacer. And the destructor is just here because we're going to be using the unique pointer for the implementation. And we can just set this to default in the CPP file. And we're only going to have one function that is available outside. It's going to be bool replace icon. The replace icon function will call the OS specific replace function inside of it. Then we're going to have our class Pimple. That's a forward declaration. And it looks like we got to include memory. So std unique pointer of mp impl. Awesome. So now we can create all of these. So let's go start that implementation. All right. So since we're doing the Windows implementation today, we will need to include windows.h, okay? So we'll just do the if def win32. You can say else and if. Okay. So there's a few things that we have to do in here. So we're going to include and we might have some stuff in here. Any like includes for Linux. So to do add any Linux as necessary. All right. So the replacing function will be replacing the icon of the executable, and this will use low-level WinAPI calls in order to update the resources inside of the .exe file or the executable. So we're going to need to create some simple data structures to help us handle this. We need to create some structs to help us define the ICO file format and the Windows resource specifications. So first we'll have the icon dir. This will describe the whole icon file. It is basically a header for a .ico file. We're going to want to go pragma pack push 2. And we want to go struct icon deer. Great. We want to ensure the layout matches the binary file format exactly. So we need to use pragma-pack2, and this will align structure members on 2-byte boundaries or on their natural alignment boundary. This is basically the header of a .ico file. So the first thing will be a word, and that will be for reserved. Reserved. And this needs to be 0 at all times, like when we actually set it. Second will be another word for the type. Word type. And that has to be 1 for icons. And then we'll say word for the count. And that's the number of images inside the file. The next structure that we'll need is the icon dir entry. This describes a single image inside of the .ico file. It describes the image itself. So we want to go struct icon dir entry. And we can scroll this down a bit. So first we're going to need the width of the icon and the height, and that's going to be a byte. Width, height, height. Then we're going to need the number of colors or the color count. Color count. Then we're going to need reserved again. This also must be 0. Reserved. Then we're going to need the color planes. Then we're going to need the bits per pixel. That's going to be a word. And we'll just say bit count. Then we're going to need the actual image data in bytes. That'll be a D word. Bytes in res. Then we're going to need any offset image data from the start of the file. Okay, so D word image offset. And we can just come up here. Let's give this a describes each icon image. This one, we can say the header of dot. Cool. Then we'll have to have the group icon dir. This is used to tell Windows what icon groups to associate in the executable. Okay, so that will be struct group icon dir. And this is basically going to be the same thing as the header up here. We can actually just copy this. And this is going to be the header for the RT group icon resource. That's what we're going to be changing in Windows. Lastly, we're also going to need the group icon dir entry. And this describes the icon in the resource group. So that will be basically the same as this one here. Copy this, paste that in, change this to group icon dir entry. Cool. And then it has width, height, color count, reserved, planes, bit count, but it doesn't have the image offset. What we need here instead is going to be word ID. And the word ID is the resource ID for the icon image. Okay. And this is going to be here, describes each icon in the resource group. Awesome. And that's the last struct. So once we're done that, we can actually do pragma pack. And we need to pop. Okay. That's the end of the packing there. KD. Cool. Awesome. So now that those structures are in place, we can actually handle the implementation. So let's go down here. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is, actually, I should have put the namespace in here first. I want to go namespace Scion editor. That. Copy all those in, paste that, and get rid of this. I usually do that first, but I forgot to do this. KD. All right. So we have our Scion editor. And what I need to do here now is actually define our class. Before we declared it in the .h file, but now we actually need to define our info class. So class icon placer impl. Okay. And this is going to have public. And for the impl, our constructor, impl, I'm going to take in the icon file, string, reference, s icon file, and the const std string, reference, s.exe file. And we'll do that in a second. Let's actually add our private members here. So we have private, and all it's going to have in here for our member variables are the two strings. So std string ms icon file and std string ms executable file. Cool. And then we can initialize here. And ms.exe file is sexe. Cool. All right. So then we're going to have our OS specific functions. So we're going to go if def win32 else and if. Then we're going to have bool replace icon windows. Cool. And we can copy this, paste this here. We might not ever have to do this, but and replace Linux as well. And we can just copy all of this. Go to the bottom, paste it here, and we go up to the top. Well, not the top. Let's grab our. We need to grab this. Go back to the bottom. Paste that in. This can just return false. To do handle Linux station. All right, so then we have our replace icon windows. Let's go back up here and right here. So that's all we need for this part of the implementation. Our class definition is pretty straightforward. So we just have these two functions inside. And here, this is our icon replacer constructor. All we need to do is set our impl. MP impl. That's just going to be std make unique of the impl class s icon file sexe file. Cool. And our destructor, we can actually just set this to default. Awesome. Okay, and then in our icon replace function, we can just go if def win32 return mp impl plays win else plays Linux if. Awesome. The replace icon function is the only exposed function to the outside, and this will call the OS specific function for replacing the icon. Okay, so now it's time to jump right into the meat and potatoes and actually do the actual replace icon implementation for Windows. So let's go here. Before we do this, let's go back up to the top, and we're going to need to include fstream. Include fstream. All right, back down. And the first thing we want to do is open the ICO file in binary mode. If we cannot open the file in binary mode, we need to fail with a good error for the user. Okay, so we want to go std ifstream. We'll say file ms icon file std ios binary. If not file Then we want to have a nice failure for the user. Let's actually go up to the top and include our logger, logger.h. Awesome. So Scion error, failed to replace icon file could not opened. And then we could try to find the reason here. We can go if file dot fail. We can go Scion error reason stream fail bit set valid format for operation. And we can do a couple other ones. If file.bad stream fail bit or stream bad bit set irrecoverable error, e.g. hardware IO failure. And if not file.good. And this is just general stream not. And let's go here, copy this. I'd rather do that. There we go. Awesome. And we just want to return false. Cool. Okay, so we have the file open, or the file stream here opened. Now we want to read the ICO file information into the icon dir struct that we created earlier. So I'm going to go icon dir. Remember, this is the header of the ICO file, icon dir. Then I want to go file dot read. Then we go reinterpret cast to a chart pointer, icon dir, size of icon dir. That should have an E on it. There we go. So we are not going to support ICO files that have multiple images. I want to add a check here for the image count and fail with a good error for the user. Good errors will allow the user to make the necessary changes without having to look into the source code. And that's the goal here. So we're going to go if icon here dot count not equal to 1. I want to say Scion error failed to replace icon image count is not 1 or and then icons with multiple images are not supported. Then we want to have the ms and then return false. Cool. Okay, so next thing we need to do is read in the icon dir entry information, and this will tell us where the image data is and how big it is. We will need to allocate a buffer and seek to the right spot in the file, then read in those raw bytes into memory so we can use them later on. Let's go icon here entry, and we'll just call this entry. We can say icon entry. And we can go file.read, reinterpret cast, star pointer, pass in the entry, size of icon dear. Then we need to allocate the buffer for the image data. We're going to go std vector char. So we need to probably include vector. We might as well do that now. Unless it's in log. You know what? We'll just come down here. So the vector, and we'll call this our image. Okay. And that's the entry dot bytes res. Then we need to move to the image offset using file seek g, file dot seek g. That takes in the entry dot image offset, and then std ios. Cool. And now we want to read in that image data into our image data. Then we want to read that image data into our image vector, right? So we want to go file.read image.data and entry dot bytes in res. Cool. Because we need to know how many to read in. All right, so now we want to create the group icon dir header for the Windows resource. Okay, so we want to go group icon dir, say just group dir, and first one is reserved. That's going to be 0 always. Second one is the type, and it's always 1 for icons. And then the third one is the number of images, which is 1. Okay. OKD. Now we need to handle the group icon dir entry. And we can fill most of this with the info from the dir entry that we created earlier with this that we read from our file. So we want to go group icon dir entry. And we'll just say group entry. And we can pass in the width. That's just entry dot width, height, color count, served, lanes, bit count, bytes in res, and the last one is 1. And this is the resource ID, and we need to use 1 to reference the RT icon. So now we enter the Windows specific resource update phase. And the first thing we need to call is the begin update resource A to get a handle to the target exe file. So we actually want to go handle h update equal to begin update resource A right here. Cool. And we need to pass in the handle msexe file.cstring. Then we don't want to delete the existing resources. So it says b delete. So we just say false here. False. Scroll down a bit. If we could not get the handle to the file, we need to fail here with a good error as well. So we want to go if not h update, so our file to be updated. We want to go Scion error failed to open update. And then we can say failed to replace icon. Let's say unable. Cool. Turn false. Okay. So next we need to actually write the raw icon image data that is an RT icon using the update resource A function. And this returns a bool, so if it fails, we want to end the update and fail with an error, okay? So we want to write the RT icon. So we want to go if not update resource A here. So if not, first we need to send in the handle, hupdate, so our handle. Next, we need to pass in the resource type to update here, and that's RT icon. All right. And then we need to pass in the name of the resource. And what we need to do for that is we have to go make int resource A. And what this will do, we pass in 1 because that's an icon. So what this is going to do is converts the integer value to the resource type that we're going to need. That will do the work for us. And then the language can be set to 0. Then we need to send in the actual image data. So image.data. And then the size of the image data is just your entry.bytes in res. Cool. All right. So OKD. If it fails to update, we want to end the update and then discard any update information. Okay. So we want to go end update resource A. Then it takes in the handle. Then we want to say true because this will discard any of the data that we were working with. Then we want to have an error. Scion error. Failed to update RT icon. And return false. All right. If we make it here, now we need to build a group icon dir and entry to describe the group. And we need to do this so we can write it to the EXE or the executable as an RT group icon. So we need to combine both the group icon dir and the group icon dir entry into one memory block. So to do that, we want to go std vector char, and we'll say group resource. And we want to go size of group icon dir plus size of the entry. We want to group these together, one block of memory. Okay, so we need one size. All that's doing is resizing our vector. Then we want to say mem copy, and we want to copy our group resource dot data. So that's the destination. Then we need to get our group dir that we created earlier. So dir, and we want to say size of group icon dir. And we can copy this down, and we want to do the same thing for the entry. But we need to give it an offset, and the offset needs to be here. Size of group icon dir. It's going to be the group entry. Perfect. So once we've done that, we have our group resource all set up. We can now update the group icon, and we need to update the RT group icon. I'm going to basically copy this here, copy this, paste it in here. So we have our update, so it takes in our handle, and now this one is different. This is going to be the group icon. Group icon. Resource can still be 1, and instead of image data, this group source data, and then here is source dot size. I didn't spell this right. So let's go back and change that everywhere. That should be resource. Cool. And same as before, we want to fail and discard anything that we're trying to update, but we want to change our error, the group icon, and return false. Otherwise, right here, we want to end the update, copy this, and we can return that because this does return a bool. So you could check to see as well. So we want to go return. And in order to commit the changes, we actually want to say false here because we're not discarding it. So we're ending the update and we're not discarding it, so that will commit the changes to the executable. All right. And that's it. So we can actually build this and test to see if it's working. Let's go and just run it. Awesome. So that built, that's great. So we can close this and we need to test this now. Okay. So let's just go back into our packager display. So that's here, displays, package display. And I removed the script compiler because we only needed to test it here. It won't actually be used directly in this display. We'll eventually have a packager class that does all of the work actually on a separate thread. We have this, and let's just add some testing here. We want to include the editor class packaging, and this is the icon placer.h. Cool. And we can go down to the bottom here to our package game, and I want to go auto the icon replacer equal to std make unique icon replacer, and it takes in the two files, and it's going to be the icon file. And what I have, so if we look here in our testing, I have two separate files. I have my icon file for the Scion engine, or for the editor. Then I have the engine. Now, we haven't created this yet. We still have to create this, but this is the one I want to change. So we need to get the path for both of these, right? So we can get this path, just the one. So we can paste that in. Oh, might as well put that in quotes now. Paste that in, and we can start adding in these here. Cool. That down. Actually make this smaller so you can see everything. And then we need to add in the file. So the ICO file is just the Scion.ico. .ico. We can put a comma here, copy the whole line down, get rid of that. And it's not Scion.ico, it's actually Scion engine, I believe I called it. .exe. Let's actually just verify that. Yeah, so it's just Scion engine and Scion ICO. Copy this. Make sure that. Yep, and Scion ICO. Oh, I showed it right there. That's actually pretty cool. I didn't know that Visual Studio could do that. Very cool. So it shows that it's the ICO file, and we have our two files, make it unique, and all we have to do now is go if not the icon replacer, replace icon, Scion error, failed to replace icon. Otherwise, they say Scion log icon replaced. All right, let's run this and see if it works. If not, we're going to have to figure that out. Run. Okay, so we'll open the project. I've already been using this test project. Run it. Load. Cool. So I want to clear this, and we can just go here to our package and just say package. Boom. It says the icon replaced. That's great. Now let's see if it actually worked. So let's open up the file, the folder here. Awesome. There we go. So the icon has been replaced, as you see here. And it's just been changed this morning at 7:12 a.m. because that's what time I'm working on this. So it just replaced the icon here. Let's actually change folders and go back, see if it stays. And it stayed. Awesome. So that's it for the icon replacer. That is great. So now we can actually, when we're actually starting to package our game, we can have an ICO file in our project settings, and it will, when it packages it over and copies it over, it will change the icon for your game to the new icon that we have here. All right, and that's it for this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions or concerns, leave a comment below. And in the next video, we're actually going to create the asset packager. And that's going to take all of our assets and compile them down into Lua and then take the data from them. And then we're going to zip it all up into a nice archive. All right, I'll see you there. Take it easy.